When I started drawing, I start with my materials. I lay out some pre-made palettes so I can see what all of the pencils look like, and take time and care choosing the right pencils for my reference photo. Then, I like to get my pencils ready. I'm quite a lazy artist, really, so starting with my pencils already sharpened gives me a fighting chance. This piece has a background on it, so you'll want to make sure that you use some low-tack tape to create a clean border. The pieces with a background, that's exactly where you should begin. I didn't actually have quite the right warm green in my set, so I used a little bit of colour theory to help me get there. By laying down some yellow ochres to start with, I could layer over my cooler greens and create the right moss-coloured effect for the end result. I used a variety of pan pastels and pastel chalks to create my background and used a soft tool to blend everything smoothly together. This takes a little bit of patience and requires quite a few layers before you get the depth that you need for the light coming through the water. For an underpainting, I usually begin with the darkest areas, and here I'm creating a sort of roadmap so I know where to put in my darkest darks. This is actually a tester piece for a course now available in the membership, and I decided to go cautiously with my darkest tones. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to use black or not, so you'll actually see me making all of this darker later on in the process, as I make a mental note to start darker in the future. Then I've gone in with this absolutely beautiful red iron oxide extra dark from Pan Pastel. I wanted to make sure to get quite a lot of red into my piece because it contrasts the green background as it's a complementary colour pairing. Complementary colours just mean that they're opposite on the colour wheel, and much like black and white are opposites on a value scale and will contrast each other as much as they can, two colours opposite on a colour wheel provide the maximum contrast of colours. This helps to make your piece a little bit more interesting and dynamic, so I love to include them wherever I can. You're now going to see me work on transitions. Transitions are something that I think a lot of beginners need to spend a little bit more time thinking about. Is the edge soft, or is it hard? Are there lots of defined details, or is it a little bit softer and more ambiguous? Taking the time to practice blending with your pastel pencils, and also becoming a little bit more familiar with how to blend out of a dark value into a mid-tone, or how to move from one colour into another, will really progress your work. It's these sorts of skills that are going to help you create 3D, lifelike versions of your reference photo on the pastel mat. So this is the underpainting almost complete. It really should be a slightly flattened version of the final drawing, something with less colour and slightly fewer highlights as well. There shouldn't really be a lot of details in an underpainting, but you should have a general idea for the direction in which the fur is going to sit. Choosing the right pencils to create the lighter values is something that can take time and practice. That's why I created a few trial palettes in the membership area, just to help people with personal projects who aren't quite sure which colours they need to pick out for a certain subject. It's something that takes time because you need to really develop your eye for seeing and understand how you can recreate an effect with a limited number of materials available to you. As I take this value darker, you'll find that the otter appears to have more substance on the page, and the lighter values will be contrasted more heavily, so we'll get a better effect on the bubbles when they come in a little bit later on. I made sure to weave in colours that I'd already used in the water for the areas of fur that are catching the light. This helps to create a painting that sits together properly, harmoniously, and doesn't look disjointed. The bubbles might look technical and difficult when you see them on a photograph, but they're actually just a simple study of light. If you're trying to draw bubbles or water droplets, start by looking for where your light source is. That's where you're going to want the brightest area. You also want to make sure not to completely fill in a bubble. We need to allow it to have air in it, so allow some of the background in this case to show through. I create a nice highlight at the top, I create a strong contrast of something dark at the bottom, and then I might blend them together just a touch with a mid-grey, but actually there's still a lot of the green visible in each of these bubbles. Creating bubbles of different sizes and returning to the idea of edges with some that are sharp and some that are a little bit blurry is going to help give a realistic finish. Now it's time for the final reveal, the best bit. If you want to know how to create this otter in Pastel, then just head over to the membership where you can find the full tutorial.